I will give the floor to you for a 5 minutes introduction. So 5 minutes. I will be very strict on that. I will follow up with one question, which I would kindly request to respond in 1 minute. And then I will pass the floor to the audience. The purpose from that is to trigger some questions, so feel free to be provocative. This is a discussion, an open discussion. And then we hope that we will attract the interest of the audience to receive some questions and to have some very interesting discussion. Now, today we have two representatives from the regulatory side. Of course, the Ministry of Defense, Captain Polydoros Hatzidimitriou. And allow me, Alain, to still put you from the regulatory, on the regulatory side, because you just started a new career. However, you have spent more than 30 years in the Commission, and you were one of the founders of what happens in Commission in Defense. That's why I will start with Alain Alexis and Captain Hatzidimitriou, and then we have the representatives of industry, those that they suffer or they benefit from these initiatives, to share their experiences. And I think, as I said, we have the best candidates. So let me start with the Ministry of Defense. The Minister provided his strategic overview, the strategic overview of the Cypriot Ministry of Defense. But now I would kindly request Captain Polydoros Hatzidimitriou to maybe give some more information about the approaches of the Cypriot Ministry of Defense as regards the defense initiatives and how maybe you see the connection to industry. Captain Hatzidimitriou is coming from the occupied village of Lapithos in Kerinia. He spent his military career so far in infantry and special forces military units. And since 2020, he joined the Research and Innovation Department of the MOD, handling European defense programs. So he experienced the initiatives in the action from the Ministry of Defense side, and also he's the Research and Development point of contact for the European Defense Agency.
Mission is to empower the operational capabilities of the National Guard. As we presented, our department was established in December 2019. The last 2 years, we spent more time in collaboration with the Cypriot industry and the Cypriot ecosystem. So I think we are in a level to know each other. And for the future, we are planning to enforce this collaboration, to avail appropriately funding and for the future, continue the funding for the future, and put in place the instruments to favor a local knowledge of current and future different technological needs. So we are planning to public a full spectrum of the technological needs and domains of interest of the Ministry of Defense for the future. Thank you very much.
Okay. This was kindly very short and crispy. Thank you very much for that, but you won't escape in such easy way. Could you please elaborate more about what are the identified priorities of the Cypriot MOD as regards the research, innovation, and development in Cyprus? Maybe how you connect this to the existing capabilities of the Cypriot security defense industry, and also how you connect this to the military requirements, if there is a process, if there is there are steps that you follow. This would be very interesting for the audience also to listen.
So, of course, we are receiving the operational leads from the National Guard staff, that's for sure. So we are trying to set the technological domains that can be supported by the local ecosystem, of course. So this is for the future research and development programs. And so we have now a clear view of these domains, which I can publish here today, can't say here today. And we are planning to foster and co-finance the ecosystem's participation in future EU programs or through national programs. Those domains are mainly unmanned platforms, ground, naval, and air unmanned platforms, artificial intelligence for defense applications, robotics, anti-drone system, both passive and active anti-drone systems, cybersecurity, and communication networks, including satellite communications and electronic warfare measures. This is a plan, but we are, of course, we are replanning due to the operational needs of the National Guard. Thank you.
We should thank you, and for those following the developments in the National Guard in Cyprus, I would say that these are the most expected. So let me pass now to Alain Alexis, with a long career in the European Commission. In our age, Alain, I'm not going to say, to make reference to how many years. Okay. So with expertise on defense, competition, and transport. But the most important thing for today's conference is his over last 7 years experience in the defense business. Allow me to call it, because I'm coming from the business domain now, in the European Commission. Just allow me to say that when I started dealing with EU matters 20 years ago, this was a no-go for the Commission. You wouldn't be allowed even to be in Schumann and talk about defense. There were some special censors to cut your voice, and this is a joke. But so I would say that Alain is one of the founders, and since also Panagiotis had the kindness also to introduce myself, if there are two among some people to be praised or to be blamed about what happens in the European defense, you have two of them today here. He took senior positions, head of unit, acting director, and his last post was senior advisor of the Director General of DG DEFIS, one of the creators or the creator of the European Defence Action Plan, European Defence Fund. Currently, he joined as a senior expert at Avisa Partners, and he's advising public and private entities on what else: defense, competition, and transport. Alain, the floor is yours in order to share your experiences in the defense security domain. In 5 minutes. But this is the challenge. That's why you have to prove why you took such high positions in the Commission.
To get to the point. Thank you very much for your nice introduction. And we should Okay, thank you very much for your nice introduction. And to be totally transparent, I think we should also thank EDA, because we have done a very good job when we prepare all of the initiative. But
this war, no, it's not going for you anymore.
But also Getter, for instance, from Estonian presidency. But because when we launched the initiative, Estonia was in charge of the council, and they have done a very good job. So maybe a few words on two parts. First, on the political context, and second, on what you could do more to get support from EDF. Political context, why did we launch all the initiative? The objective is very simple. The objective is security of Europe, security of citizens. It's very simple. But of course, when we say security of Europe, first we need a good diplomat, because diplomats are very important. But at a certain stage, we know that diplomats have to stop. We have no choice, and we need militaries. But if we need militaries, we need capabilities. And of course, we can buy capability in third countries, but we know that when we buy capability in third country, you are not free to use this capability, so we need EU capability. And to get EU capability, we have no choice. We need industry, because at the end of the day, capability will not develop by EU Commission or by MOD, it will be developed by industry. So we need competitive EU industry to deliver capability that we need, that military need, probably not now, but in the next 10 years, because we are discussing R&D. But we need this industry to be competitive. Second element on industry, we should not forget, we are also have in mind jobs. Yeah, because we need capability for security, but a job is a job. So job in defense industry is very important because with very few exceptions, industry in Europe is dual, doing civil and defense. So it's very important for jobs. So on EDF, how to participate to EDF? Well, on the basis of experience, I will say you have two options. First option, you take part to consortia with large companies to respond to call for thematic topics, which are very broad. In 2022, you have 14 categories, so it's difficult not to find something for you. So you can part to this consortia. I think large companies are demandeurs for SME. They need SME in their consortia. They need SME first because you will bring added value in technology, in very specific domain. You will bring technology. Second, which is also important, you will bring bonus in the selection of consortia. Because as you know, we have a system of bonus, and when we have in a consortia, you have SME, particularly cross-border SME, you get bonus. You get additional points. So do not avoid discussing with large companies and something we can support to be part of consortia because they need you. If you don't part to large consortia, you can bring something by setting up SME consortia. So we need only 3 SME from 3 member sets. On this, if you want to have a success, it cannot be one shot. You need to develop a strategy. You need to develop a strategy for the next 3 or 4 years, because you can take part to the call 1 year, you get 2 million, et après. So après, you need to be part of a strategy. Strategy where you will combine different instruments. You will combine EDF, but you have also Horizon for civil research, because you can use both if you have a strategy. You can combine with additional instruments, for instance, for skill, for training. We have EU support for skill, for training. You need to define a strategy to combine all these elements. Something which is important is a multi-annual perspective, which has been adopted by the Commission, because when you see this multi-annual perspective, you know what the Commission will do the next 4 years, so you can prepare something to be part of this. You need to rely on synergy. Synergy. If you can bring something on space and defense, it's better, because synergy is something we want. If you can bring something on green, of course it is a priority. Everybody will support a green technology. If you can bring something on new hydrogen, it's something, of course you will get additional part. When you prepare proposal, I will stop in my 5 minutes, take care to all details. It looks very pragmatic. But when I chair selection board of proposals, we had good proposal, we just dismissed because some details were not there. Very stupid example. If your commission say you can have 70 pages, it's not 71, it's 70. It can be 68. But if you provide additional document, Commission will not take into account. Last element, use existing experience. Do not try to reinvent a wheel. You have good technology, rely on your technology and develop something on this. I think I'll stop in 5 minutes.
Thank you. And this is a nice example for the rest of the speakers. I think there were very nice tips about how these initiatives could be operationalized by interested. My question is, where do you see more specifically the benefits? Which are the elements for Cyprus initiatives?
Advantage of initiative is contrary to what we could imagine. It's not so complex to be that. So for Cyprus, the industry is there. Of course, you don't have a large company as you can find in Germany, in France, or in Italy, but expertise is there. You have good SME. So this good SME must be part of consortia. You will bring something. You will learn something. You can learn something on technology. You can learn something on new development of capability. And probably still more important, don't forget that EDF will not support defense company. EDF will support defense actions or defense technology, meaning that we will support dual company. And everything, we all know that everything about defense has huge positive externality on civil. So what you would, the money you would put in defense, even if at the end of the day, well, research, we never know, sometimes it doesn't work. But you will not waste your money because you will have positive externality for civil.
Thank you, Alain. And since we mentioned this Cyprus, what is Cyprus, allow me to pass the floor now to Mr. Kounoudes. With long experience in defense projects in the UK MOD, he decided in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, to come back to the roots. So congratulations, and this is very highly acknowledged, should be highly acknowledged in Cyprus. And you created Signal Generics, which became from a startup, I guess back then, to a world-known electronics manufacturing company. What an experience to follow this nice journey. But you're also president of the Cyprus Association of Research Innovation Enterprises and the Cyprus Defence Cluster. To be proactive, since you are here with two very interesting caps for the audience, my question will be focused on your experience as a company from the initiative. So maybe in your intro you can focus more on your cap as the president of the Research and Innovation Association. And thank you. You can take the floor.
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, throughout all my experience in Cyprus, we all to facilitate change. As a company owner, we started a first R&D company back in 2004, so we have to convince what is research and development, how we can do research so as to produce products, because everything was about the research at universities. So we've been, after 18 years, we've seen that there is a lot of change, and now everything is around companies and startups. Regarding the defense industry, we have a lot of capable and people in Cyprus that they work abroad in the huge companies. So we have the material to build upon. We had again to facilitate change because Cyprus is very well known for its weather and tourism, but not for high tech and definitely not for defense. So we had to change at every step of our work. We have to convince first of all ourselves that we can do it, to convince and collaborate with our MOD, and we are doing this smoothly, and also to convince European companies to participate and collaborate in transfer of know-how. And we are very grateful that we were mature enough at the perfect timing when the EDIDP calls were announced with established companies and very good collaboration so as to participate in these programs. And and thank you very much for all the work, because Cyprus is a living success story for all the work you have done so as to include SMEs And this, believe me, is very difficult for having these success stories in an industry that is dominated by large companies. So we transfer a lot of know-how in Cyprus. We utilize funding to build infrastructures, and now we are in a position, of course we have a lot of things to do, but we are in a position to develop products and export these products.
Thank you very much. Since my job as a partner in EY is addressing EU funding opportunities at large, but also I'm leading also the security defense sector. And my day-to-day business is to support industries to access consortia for the European Defence Fund, to negotiate the packages, to prepare proposals, to compete with other companies, and so on, and also to discuss with the MODs, because the MODs are playing a very important role in the, in the European Defence Fund application process. Which would be some tips on how to address these different steps of the European Defence Fund upon your experience, to access consortia, to approach large companies, to negotiate packages which will reflect your capacities, but also to improve, further improve your capabilities, because it's not just to stay on what you are, where you are, to stay on your laurels, but also to further develop them. Could you please share with the audience some of the tips and some of the risks you may see?
It's a new learning experience. So the whole EDIDP, DIDP framework is new for everyone, relatively new. So we're still learning. However, what we understood so as to be successful is to grow up capabilities. Because nobody will include a Cypriot company consortium because it's just from Cyprus, but because it has capabilities to develop something, to contribute, to add value to a consortium. What we are doing, and we have excellent collaboration with our R&D of our MOD. We found the support at every step of our effort to analyze the opportunities. It's very important to outreach our capabilities to European partners. So we're regularly participating in events of the European Union, in exhibitions. So we are not waiting for somebody to find us. We have to go out there and demonstrate our capabilities. And this is also one reason of this conference. Then our synergies. We promote continuously new companies to enter our association, and we create synergies between us so as to grow and to and also with the international organizations, what we have done with the associations, what we have done with HASDIG, what we will do with GCAN, in order to strengthen the relationship and also transfer of know-how. So there are many steps that and actions that we are doing so as to be successful.
Thank you. But the message is dare to do it, because it's possible for everyone. And if we have a success story in Cyprus, we have another success story in Greece, because Greek defense, security defense companies are very successful since the establishment of the EDIDP and afterwards the launch of EDF in every year's calls. And there should be some secrets behind on that. Of course, first of all, the quality and competitiveness of the Hellenic defense, security defense industry. Today we have with us the best representative, the president of the Hellenic Aerospace and Security Defense Industries Group, Nikolaos Papatsas. Mr. Papatsas has highly reputable studies in the United States and work experience in the United States. And since 1993, he joined EFA Ventures and afterwards became a partner. EFA Ventures is part of the EFA group, which a worldwide service provider or industrial development active in today, if I'm not mistaken, in more than 40 countries. This is really impressive. So, Mr. Papatsas, we would welcome you to share your experience.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this very, very important, gathering, I may say, and talking about defense. And I would like to thank you for inviting me to the panel. I would like to say a couple of things. First of all, to start with my discussion, I think last year and maybe 3 years ago, we saw for the first time events that probably changed the mindset of how we think about defense. Remember, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we had some some terrorist acts that happened in Paris and in Brussels. And what you saw at that time is, after a couple of days, you didn't see security forces, you saw defense forces out on the street, which means that security and defense, as we perceive it today, are one of the same. And nations, and what happened lately also with the geopolitical crisis in Ukraine, for the first time, the mindset of Europe, after probably 10 or 15 years of lack of investments on defense, have changed totally. Europe, for the first time, is thinking that to have your own defenses, you cannot rely on somebody else, which was something that was true for our own nations, the way they were thinking, but now this, for the first time, a collective EU, I may say, thinking that they can no longer rely on NATO or somebody else for their defenses. The strengthening of the European defense started maybe 5 years ago with the research and development programs, and now Europe, for the first time, has shown more aggressively to invest a lot more money, as you mentioned, because having the industrial strength or maintaining a technological base in Europe requires funding, expenditure, and for the most part, I may say, common procurements. This is for the first time. I was recently at EDA in December, and for the first time, EDA is running a procurement program for munitions, but the results are, it's not, they want large quantities in very short time. And I believe defense industry cannot meet that goal, because for a long time, the defense industrial base had winded down their activities, so they had small activities, which goes to show you that defense is a key element and needs investment. This is now they're realizing, and this is why the strengthening of the defense industrial base is coming through investment in R&D programs, technologies, with the idea that in 5 years, 6 years, or 8 years, there will be common procurements, and there will be common defense systems, and Europe will rely on itself for its defenses. Now, to go in a little bit of a smaller picture, if I may say, the smaller countries, the Cyprus and Greece, we're here to discuss today. The opportunities for us coming through the research and development programs is to be able to collaborate and meet with other companies, relationships, provide technologies. Not everybody from the large companies have other technologies. We are there at SMEs to support innovative ideas and to become part of the industrial base. This is the aim of the R&D programs. It must turn into products and systems that they are useful for the defense forces. And I may say, if you look at last year's ASD report, the economic benefits from that investment are great. Europe has 3.6 million jobs last year in the defense, employees. There were another 2.8 jobs created in the general civil sector for every job from the defense. Europe had 578 billion in turnover between the defense companies. Out of that, they contributed to the GDP of Europe approximately 240 billion. Imagine this economic benefit. Everybody within every country, and even the European Union, is realizing that these defense investments are creating great economic benefits. They're not only for security, which security doesn't come cheap, but they are also contributing to the economic development. Security of supply is a very, very important topic, and this is what Europe is trying to address. But within our own nations, we also need to pitch into that. We need to strengthen. I come from a country that has invested very little in R&D. Now our country is looking to invest more. We came from financial crisis. Europe came from thinking differently. Maybe the common European, let's call it defense, was something that was out of the question. And now it has changed. It has changed the reality. We have many asymmetric threats, whether it's energy and whether it's illegal immigration. We saw that these were very, very large in the last couple of years in trying to keep our borders secured, and our borders are all EU borders. It's all a common defense. Now, having said that, I may say that despite the fact that we have large companies in the EU doing defense systems, they need to have an ecosystem around them from industrial base, smaller companies that can work with them, and in the time and need of crisis, they can mobilize resources. I said the example before, the large companies in Europe that were manufacturing munitions, they had very, very small production lines. So how do you mobilize this? How do you increase it all of a sudden? You need to have more SMEs involved. And this is what we're looking for. This is a great job for everybody. Every country is investing, and we need to invest in our common future. Now, I come from a group in Greece, as you mentioned, called DFA Ventures, where the DFA Group is one of the large defense companies in Greece. Our group did a couple of $100 million of turnover last year. We're more than 350 employees in different sectors of the defense. We'll be working together with CARIE as an association with HASDIG as well. And we're trying to innovate, to become innovative. Cyprus has a very, very active research and development companies. We hopefully that will get more in the next couple of 3 years into doing their own products and production here locally, supporting their armed forces, but jointly together to try to build an extra version, try to build innovation. We already have Greek and Cyprus companies participating, along with EU companies, other EU companies, and this is the great of the R&D programs of Europe, bringing different countries and different companies together to collaborate, build relationships, and innovate. This is what we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a comment dealing with EU from national and EU posts for about 20 years. I think that today there are no small and big countries in the European Union. There are those that they are small and those that they don't know that they are small. As soon as there is no country today in the European Union that can pursue operations, conduct operations alone, and it is dependent on each other, then all countries, EU, has a common future and they have to see each other in this way. If you could name just one point, initiative, element, where needs to be done. So this is what we have today, these are the initiatives, these are the benefits, these are the risks, these are the challenges. But with your long experience from the company, as the president of HASDIG, and also from your past experience, what is, would be the one that you would advise EU as an initiative to take? What is pending? What is missing?
I think trying to integrate in the supply chain of the large European companies as many as possible of the small companies. Remember, these small companies have a wealth of people. Sometimes they have very, very good scientific talent. This is what we proved actually as Cyprus and Greece in the EDIDP programs. The participation of our companies. I must say a statistic that nobody knows. Greece was number 5 in the EDIDP, and along some of these programs that we were together with Cyprus, after the large companies like France, Germany, Italy, and I don't remember which other one. So Greece was rated very, very high. What does this go to show you? This goes to show you that there are a lot of innovative ideas coming from us. We have very talented engineers who are very, very competitive, and we believe we can provide strength to whatever the European Union in general and the larger companies are planning to do.
Yes, and this proves also the contradiction. How on earth a company which is not successful in competitions in different countries, which was the case in many of these companies before EDIDP, they managed to be very successful in the EDIDP and the EDF. How they became suddenly competitive. Maybe the rules of the game now are much clearer because also of the initiative of the Commission. And we pass to our last panelist, Sir Andreas Mitsis, who has legal studies and long experience. Again, I'm not going to say how many years, but it's a long, long experience on international law matters, shipping industry, multinational investments, arbitration, very interesting also for defense. He used to be a strategy and policy advisor to different Greek ministries, and also even he held the post of the Secretary General for Industry in former government of Greece. Today is the president of the EODH, a very competitive company, where what I find very interesting, 100% of the revenues are coming from exports. So this is really interesting, and we would like to listen to you on how you managed to do this achievement.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks the organizers for this great event. It gives me great pleasure to be back to the roots. The last is either a lucky one or an unlucky. I consider myself as lucky, so I will share with you only 3 examples coming out of experience. I'm sure that you all know about what is strategic compass and what are the aims, and above all, when this strategic compass for the security and defense and industry of European Union is rooted. It's rooted on 4 pillars: invest, partner, secure, and act. I will focus only on the industry side. We are all facing with challenges, especially Europe, and our countries are fully aware, because we have some nice neighbors, or this island is under occupation for more than 40 years. What is the requirement out of the industry? And what do we want from the European Union, which in effect is a projection of each country's interests in the bigger picture? Being a member of this European family, wearing a different hat, heading the industry in 2003, I can tell you the following story. Mr. Prodi, at that time in charge, asked me to organize, as the president of the Competitiveness Council, which we created at that time, to organize an event in Brussels. And the title was European Industry facing the challenges of the, I think it was the third industrial revolution at that time. Now we are facing with the fourth or the fifth. At that time, the robotics and the artificial intelligence was not there. So everybody was believing that I would like to focus on the telecommunication, the technologies. So I said to Mr. Prodi and to Mr. Likanen, who was the commissioner in charge, let's focus on something which is a drive engine. I said, what? I said, defense. I said, you crazy? If you mention this word, half or three-quarters of your audience, they will go out. This was a shock. Okay, we readapt. We have a very nice event. And during the dinner, Germany, UK at that time, France, Greece was also the head. We debated what is missing. And I remember the German representative approach and say, hey, Mr. Mitsis, can we do something about defense without telling this? I said, what do you mean? Hide in your strategy and in the allocation of the funds something which I will apply for the defense. And we have done it in the chemical industry. Likewise, France. Likewise, UK. We have done something, but without telling that we apply money for the defense. Another example is the recent confrontation of the challenges. Mr. Papatsas mentioned something about the lack of capacity, the supply chain and the lead time. To confront these challenges, you need capacity. But to get ammunition, where the ammunition companies were dormant, and it was a sin to talk about ammunition. Now, I know a company who is going around Europe, trying to buy other small companies or to get a solution. Not easy. In our area, they need capacity in mobility, truck vehicles, not to say MBTs, to help safeguard the borders in Scandinavia, in Romania, in Poland, and also applying this within the NATO framework. But to have a tank or to have a military vehicle, you need minimum 2 to 3 years. We neglected the industry. We neglected the investment. We were living in a totally different world. And all of a sudden, we ask ourselves what to do. In a meeting in Germany with the officials there and the industry, I heard a lot about hybrid threats and challenges, common doctrines, common response, common project, and common products. It's all well and good. I have the experience to be invited, although a small company, a humble small company in Greece with a track record of 20 years, to be invited to contribute with my engineers and my technologies in the building of the new MBT. But we couldn't even publicize this at the beginning. It was a sin. It's the so-called MGCS, a common platform, a common tank. Very difficult to balance between the conflicting interests of the people. The European big countries are proud. They want to protect their industries. But now they start changing their minds. And do you know who can serve as a nice icebreaker? The SMEs. The small companies, which are in Cyprus, in Greece, in small countries. Here in Cyprus, you have highly educated people. It can be Cyprus as a cradle of a new Silicon Valley. So, you have to dare and do it.
Thank you.
This is my message.
Thank you very much. I think it's very important to listen to what happened in the past. I also mentioned something in my introduction in order to understand how quickly the European Union moved. Just imagine that NATO, it took now 60 years, more than 50 years to be where it is today. And in the European Union, the first serious council at the heads of states level took place in 2013, and in 2023, see what we have. So we should be very proud and not to be pessimistic. Now, I give the floor to the audience to take 2-3 questions in order to try at least to address some urging follow-ups you would like to make. Please, who would like to ask a question? Please, yes.
I would like to ask, what about the CBRNE? It's something that was presented by Mr. Hopper, but on the other side, there is something in that CBRNE that is not actually defined or not elaborated, if you want to. I have to mention some cases, just like you mentioned by yourself before, just like Paris Theatre, Moscow, Romania Airport, London subway, Brussels, etc., and very recently, Germany, with Reichen. And that's my point, actually, because I want to mention the biohazards, the B in the CBRNE, the biohazards. As far as I know, there are not so many detectors in that section. There are actually only 2 worldwide. And we cannot be proactive concerning the biohazard. Is there something in your plan to elaborate with it? Thank you.
Thank you. I keep the question. Let's take a couple of more, and then if there is any other question from the audience. So they were so clear, or you are very hungry. Okay. About CBRN, if I can respond, and of course I will give you 1 minute for some closing remarks. And I should tell you that since, due to my business as well, we are studying a lot EDF calls. There are calls in the area of CBRN inviting industries to submit proposals in this field. Also, the Ministries of Defense, the member states who are participating in the program committee and also in the European Defence Agency discussions preparing in support of the European Commission the calls, they can always contribute with inputs. And it is important, the different services, because I understand you are coming from the fire service or police? Okay. It is important also at the national level to liaise with the Ministry of Defense, to liaise all the services together in order to discuss the different challenges, and this to be prioritized and to be promoted through the EU channels and to become calls. At the same time, it's good to prepare your national defense industry and security defense industry in order to be able to respond to such kind of calls. So I give the floor for the last 1 minute to some closing remarks, some key messages you would like to pass in order then to conclude our panel, and I will follow the reverse order. Mr. Mitsis. You can use mine.
I have only one message to the companies, to the business community. Do not rely on big promises. Dare, join forces with partners from other countries and knock the door, however big is the company. If you have the people, you have the brains, you can have the infrastructure, but above all, get your position in the European Union and get your position, or I wish that you can get your position sooner or later, I'm sure about that, within the NATO structures. There, we can all feel secure, and we can feel that what happened to the island will never happen again.
Thank you. For the SMEs, dare to pair, and for the big ones, dare to share. So, Mr. Papatsas.
Well, I believe that we live in a different world, as I said in my speech. I believe security and defense has larger perception in the societies since last year. It's more acceptable. I think the dilemma, guns or butter, is not a big dilemma anymore. We need to invest more in defense, and each country needs to take its own actions. It needs to put more into that field. It takes time for R&D programs to become systems, but investing in your defense industry, in the European defense industry, will create not only economic benefits, but will provide security. And this is what we need. This is what we need today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kounoudes.
I can say that we dared, so as to be in this position. I totally agree with what Ilya said before, that there is no any strategy to involve the industry, most probably because we are new, but having a strategy in armaments where we can participate and at least offer our opinion, we can do much more. So we dare every day, and this is what we will continue to do.
Thank you, but this is also a message from the panel, just to have a structured also national process, national strategy, and this to be linked also to all different stakeholders.
Sorry. Two words maybe on main challenges. Well, we will encounter in the next 2, 3, or 4 years. Because, so we have a deadline for ADIDP next week, but when we look to the next 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 elements first. Very important to keep in mind that we need to be coherent. Because we have many initiatives on the table. Probably maybe too many initiatives. You have EDF, you have PESCO, you have a list of EDIRPA, we have Horizon, we have a new Net Zero Industry Act announced by von der Leyen. We have many initiatives. We have a budget, we have lots of money, but we need to keep this just to be sure what we deliver, what we want, capability, and not blah blah. And to be sure that we keep the priorities already identified by member states, by EDA, and we do not try to reinvent a wheel. So priority have been identified. We need to put all money, resources on what we have identified and to deliver. Second element is on the political support. Of course, we have Ukraine, we have a terrorist attack, we have political support for defense and security. Yes, but we have political support, but in the meantime, we have all this strange discussion on taxonomy. We have all this strange discussion on sustainability of financing, saying that banks say that we cannot support, we cannot finance defense industry because we do not like defense. We lack security, but we do not lack defense. We want defense, but we do not want capability. We lack defense, but we don't lack arms. No, but we will ask military to defend with what if we don't arm? So we have all this, I would not say stupid because it would not be politically correct, but nonsense, strange discussion, and I think we need to put this on the table. Probably we need some form of action plan, something where we need to put this and to say, look, let's be serious.
See, and since whatever we discuss here in these 2 days is about you, about the armed forces, one, and about the future generation, because it's not about us maybe anymore. So the floor is yours, Captain, to conclude.
I think that I am lucky because I am the last one on the panel. So
and the most important.
Yes, and I was covered by the previous panelists, but I understand that different member states are in different levels of CBRN capabilities. Of course, it's not my department's responsibility to set the national strategy on CBRN capabilities. If I want to mention here my department's point of view, if anyone in this room has such capabilities, we are here to consult and cooperate for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's make a very big noise with our hands, applauding our panelists and thank them for their messages.